The laugh. I'm big into urban exploration, and even though I live on the Canadian prairies, there are plenty of abandoned structures to explore. Farmhouses, schools, factories, power plants, hotels, whole ghost towns, and hospitals, even mental hospitals. The site in question was on the outskirts of a small city to the south of where I live. It was a huge complex with a 3-story main building with 2 extensive wings, the whole covering several acres. The complex had been shut down in the late 1970s, and since that time, a number of urban legends of medical experiments gone wrong, of the escape of homicidal patients, and of ghostly phenomena had entered the local whisper stream, and, by some, had been accepted as fact. Given a history like that, how could we resist a visit? How could we resist? We arrived at dusk so as not to attract attention, parking our vehicle in an isolated spot behind the main building. There didn't appear to be any guards on site, but they might patrol the place by car, and we didn't want to get caught. We also didn't want to break in. Trespassing was one thing, B&E was another. But we found a slightly open window at the rear of the building and crawled in. We were in an old storeroom, its shelves filled with old cardboard boxes which appeared to have contained cleaning supplies. A large wooden table stood in the middle of the small room, forcing you to edge around it in order to reach the door. And that was what I was doing when Zach stopped me with, "Look at this table." "Yeah? What about it?" "It's an old table." "Well, where's the dust?" I stared at the table and saw it was perfectly clean, as if it had been recently dusted. Now, in an abandoned building, things are generally covered in a layer of thick dust, but not here. Still, so what? "It looks like somebody cleaned it," Zach said, obviously impressed. Well, maybe this room doesn't get a lot of dust," I answered. "Come on, let's go." We stepped out into the hall, which also appeared to be largely free of dust and debris. In fact, it was too tidy, too clean. "Do you think they might still be working in here?" Kat whispered. "Funny that. How you always whisper when you're sneaking around in an abandoned building." Indeed, I found myself whispering back, "I don't know. Maybe they took out all the stuff they thought they could sell or dispose of. Anyways, it's so quiet. If there's anyone else in here, we'll hear them and can take off, eh?" We started exploring the ground floor, which seemed to consist of a number of large rooms, a dining hall with an abandoned kitchen at one end, a common room which still held a battered couch and a few worn chairs, and an auditorium, complete with stage and curtains. No doubt someone, Zach maybe, would have jumped up onto the stage and started acting the fool. But then we heard the laughter. It was an unnatural, metallic laugh, which sounded like it was coming through speakers. It was incredibly creepy because it was so unnatural. Now, back when I was a kid in grade school, A friend and I had been in a novelty or joke shop where we found this thing called a canned laugh. A canned laugh. It was a small, nondescript, plain metal can, about half the size of a soup can, and when you opened it, you heard, ha 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 ha. I remembered that at the time I thought the gimmick hilariously funny, but hearing the sound now in a supposedly empty building at night was incredibly creepy. If it wasn't paranormal, and I had no reason to go there yet, it meant there were other people in the building, people who may not be friendly, people trying to scare us out. "Is there somebody else in here?" said Alex, reading my mind. "Ah, it's just some kids messing around," Zach snapped. "Okay," I conceded. "But what kids?" "Oh, probably just a bunch of kids from the local high school." "Maybe. But let's try to avoid meeting them, eh?" I thought about climbing up onto the stage and looking behind the curtains to see if anyone was lurking there. But instead, we all crept back out into the hallway, no longer so keen to explore. I think if I'd taken a vote right then, it would have been 3-1 to leave, Zach being the lone holdout. I racked my brain, trying to determine where the strange laughter had come from. It seemed to echo like it was in a stairwell, but up or down, I couldn't say. "Well, where shall we go now?" I said to the group. To which Zach's emphatic answer was, "No way I'm going down in the basement." I couldn't help but smile at his response. But someone else thought it was hilarious, as once again the canned laughter chortled through the gathering gloom, and it was definitely coming from upstairs. "It's got to be kids," Zach said, adding, "Well, I'm going to troll them." And with that, he started fake laughing like a maniac. "Be quiet, you fool," I said, instinctively reaching out to grab him. We might have had an altercation. But then Alex cried, "Someone's coming." Sure enough, someone or something was pounding down the stairs from the floor above us. We could hear the crash of their footfalls coming down, as well as see a white approaching light. Whoever they were obviously carrying an LED flashlight. I thought about hiding, about going into one of the nearby rooms, but only for an instant. It was a case of, you can run, but you can't hide. A dark figure appeared at the bottom of the stairwell and came pounding into the hallway, their powerful LED flashlight playing over the walls, the ceiling, the floor, and eventually blinding us. At the same time, the maniacal, metallic laughter seemed to build to a crescendo, as if the sound was exploding in our heads, in our minds. The dark figure proved to be a thin man, all in black, perhaps a uniform, and he was shouting at us, "Get out of here! Get out of here now! Can't you hear it? Can't you hear it coming?" We heard it, an entire wall of demonic and demented fake laughter, so loud it seemed to shake the foundations of the old building, and gave us all ear-splitting headaches. We crashed through a fire door at the end of the hall and sprinted for the car. And outside, you could still hear the laughter. We burnt rubber out of there, and we all just sat there in stunned silence until we reached the highway, when Zach said, "What the hell was that noise? And who was that guy?" "I don't know," I said. "Some kind of security guard or something." "We just got trolled," Zach yelled. "That was all a prank to drive us out of there. Come on, turn around. Let's go back." Both Kat and Alex cried out, "No! No!" So I kept on heading up the highway. I thought I'd put on some music to drown out the argument and calm everybody down. But when I switched on the radio, the car was filled with unnatural metallic laughter, which was incredibly creepy because it was so unnatural. I turned the radio off, but the laughter kept echoing through the car, getting louder and louder and more diabolical as I put my foot down on the accelerator in my attempt to get away, to run away from it. But I couldn't get away. I could not get away. We picked up a hitchhiker, and we cannot make it stop laughing. Laughing. Ha 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 ha. The moral of the story: never pick up a hitchhiker, even if some of them are good for a laugh. For a laugh. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs in 2022. Till midnight. Ha 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 ha. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pix Here. That's PX Here. While the music was the dreadful The Dread by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod. The maniacal laughter was supplied by one WSJ, and of him, the less said, the better.